Zana and I, we speak as one. And because of that, it's so much more than the sum of the parts. I verbally speak, and I am acting as the voice for us. And Zana feels, holds, opens, and communicates all that is invisible, that holds the energy of the intention, the pure intention behind the words, and all the possibilities that extend out from our shared vision. So this is how we work together as one. Okay. So before we begin, I just want to share something with you that's actually very wonderful and points to everything that we wish to express.
So fresh.
And it's so fresh. It just happened maybe an hour ago. So I'm holding up a sketch.
Wow.
Okay. So this is a sketch we did last night for a place that we wish to build in the heartland of Slovakia. And effectively, it's a small home for that part of the world for us. And this was between us. It emerged quite spontaneously. And, we didn't show it to anyone. It's not on internet. We don't do that. And then just as we were listening earlier to the wonderful presenters, Zana asked her 6-year-old daughter, Angelica, if she would feel like just drawing something that would represent a school for her, because she actually only started primary school, as I would call it, primary school just 2 weeks ago. Wow. So everything is very new for her, the system, the control grid, everything. So so here's what she drew.
Wow.
So you can see the resonance.
Amazing.
So this is, now remember, she saw nothing. She wasn't trying to copy a sketch that she saw. This was pure from the field. And I know you know what that means. This field of consciousness, this morphogenic informational field that is continuously changing like a cymatic function, a collective consciousness projection, and that those that have ears to hear and eyes to see and other senses that aren't normally given much credibility, those senses can connect us with shared visions and possible futures and new timelines. And that's very much what we're interested in, very much what fuels our passion and drives our desire to open the world. And actually between us, we have 7 children. And those children have and continue to be through the full spectrum of educational possibilities. My own children were home educated. They had informal, natural learning, no curriculum. And so they've all continued and to move through into life with their own passions intact and their own sense of who they are. And Zana's children are very much keeping hold of that potential in themselves, and actually, in my view, having a tougher job because they are in the system. So, and meanwhile, in the background of that, we're both hugely interested in education for ourselves, for others, for our families, of course, but what it means for us to continue to learn, continue to remember, continue to connect, and to use that connectivity to create consciously. And so education for us, it's just a word, we know that in whatever language, but education for us is a force that gives anybody the possibility to create consciously. That's the key.
Yes.
And one of the shared quotations that has independently stimulated us in the past has been that by Einstein, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact words, but effectively it was, you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Our children have inherited our problem, that we created this system, we created this spectrum of assumptions and projections that we put onto our young minds, and in order for them to become like Prakash said, like good citizens in the world, you know? And then you see what happens when that beautiful kindergarten in Japan was created, breaking some rules, and then the whole system changed as a result of that commitment. So we have a presentation we'd like to share with you because we know time is short. May we do so?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, so here we go. Can you guys see this okay? Is it coming up for you?
Yes. Wow.
Wow.
This was a school design from some years ago, actually, and this was one of the components, part of it. It's a larger campus. But this would be our feeling, our shared quotation feeling here, that schools can, if designed and built consciously, be beautiful spaces for children and teachers to explore, express, expand, and enjoy their full potential. And that's our deepest sense, and that's why we do what we do. So this on the next slide, we'll push through it quickly because there's nothing here new. You guys know that the existing education system is not working. It's not working well on any level for anyone. And in fact, my father, who has now passed, his job for his whole life was in charge of the education system in a whole region in Ireland. And when I first announced that we were going to home educate my first child, he said it was a bad idea. And I really respected his opinion because not only he was my father, but also he represented education. And his reason why he thought it would be a bad idea was because he believed that life is a difficult, tough, hard place. And you need to learn that early on, and school can do that. That was shocking for me. It was shocking because I felt it couldn't be this. So when we look at the existing system, there is an emphasis on knowledge, a huge emphasis on knowledge, and very, very little, as you can see from the little graphic on the left, very little for life competencies. So you've got this spectrum and push of knowledge-based learning and very little that's able to be practically applied to real life in a meaningful, beautiful way. But the new children, the new system, the new future possibility requires a complete reversal of that system, where life competencies, the ability to enjoy and express and create and connect is primal, and everything else can follow. And there's even a recent Chinese billionaire who started speaking recently saying that we can't hope to compete at a knowledge level with the machines. What we can only hope to do is continue to develop our ability to connect with other life, to form team-like systems of creative movements. The knowledge will take care of itself. So this is how our understanding that the system needs to change, and we're offering one aspect of that in terms of conscious design. So the children of today, I'm sure many of you have heard of, the indigo children, the crystal children, names and titles and categorizations for this new level of consciousness that's coming through our young people now. But these children know things. I mean, you saw what Angelica, a 6-year-old, did. She connected to the field without us telling, now you must connect with the field and give us a good response. No, it was a playful, non-pushed invitation to express something that's very current for her at the moment. She's now open to what school is in the box, and she was given a playful, free opportunity to express what it could be, and then connected in with this sense of beauty. Okay. So the presence with and within the presence of beauty is the key, because so many disciplines put beauty as a second or a tertiary or even quaternary level importance, that something must be practical, functional, useful, commercially viable, and then maybe with a good bit of design and marketing could be considered beauty. We are of the opposite opinion. We feel that beauty is actually the key, the core, and the force and the power behind good design. Not just for your life, but for the physical structures that we seek to create. But acceptance of this requires a lot of courage, the courage to create something new, something different. So one of the areas that we're particularly interested in is neuroaesthetics. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah.
Well, basically, it's the understanding of how beauty and harmony in the outside world and our ability to perceive that can affect and change our own physiological and psychological functioning. In simple terms, beauty makes us happier. And happier people make happier teachers, happier students, happier contributors and creators. So everything in the universe, everything that we perceive around us is coming into all of our senses. We tend to be primarily conditioned on the visual, but of course it's a full system experience. But when we perceive something that's natural and harmonic and taking the shape that nature knows is alive and beautiful and growing, something amazing happens inside our brain. And the visual information becomes electrical, becomes chemical, that moves through our whole cortex. It creates a holographic, beautiful field inside our awareness, and it releases endorphins and feel-good energies and chemicals that flood our body, ground us psychologically, and make us happier and more open to express who we are. And this enlivens the mind and completely frees the body. And a good friend of ours, Dan Winter, a scientist who's really interested in life and life force, he would say that the ultimate educator is bliss. That's a biggie. You know, that they are a blissful, ecstatic, open, enthusiastic state allows you to connect and express everything that isn't pushed into your head as knowledge-based information. It allows us to connect and express. So natural harmonies, you've seen versions of these before, we won't labor on them, but everything in nature follows these beautiful patterns, algorithms, and sequences of shapes, forms, symbols. And when we align with those, we're automatically receiving the good energy. So that beautiful quote, William Blake, to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. It's all there available to us in each and every moment. So what is needed? I mean, this is only a snapshot snippet of what's needed. Nothing here will surprise you. This is what you've been working towards. Self-knowing, minimizing the old stories that impact the knowing of true self. Awareness, intuition, really focusing on the child and teacher, having this interconnection. Authentic communication, authentic, and reaching the full potential, not just individually, but collectively through bliss, creativity, play. Of course, reducing toxic environmental conditions, movements, materials, chemicals, electromagnetic pollution, fear, nervousness, all of these elements of the environment that can bring our immune system physiologically, psychologically down and impair our ability to feel ourselves truly. As Winston Churchill said, first we shape our buildings and then they shape us. So we see school as a place of connection. We see school as a place of treatment and spiritual awakening. I'm not going to just read this text out, but basically an environment to help people remember who they are and to connect. This is the key, to create the space of connectivity between humans and all other aspects of life. That beautiful kindergarten in Japan, I mean, he didn't do walls. Walls were not interesting to him because he just wanted to let the life connect. Okay. So any holistic school design, of course, needs beauty as its key movement, to be attractive, unique, active, bright, and connecting. Keywords, nothing surprising there. Again, holistic school design. This is the beautiful transformational potential of I am, which expresses love of self, love of another, loving what you do, and loving the earth around you. And this beautiful transformational energy, once it's given freedom to express and move into your life and through your life, can create edifices of education that will shock the world. So natural forms and functions, ergonomic flows, and the conscious use of materials. It was even things like the light fitting. He didn't want any LED or fluorescence in the kindergarten. So important. Okay, so sacred geometry is one of the tools we use. It informs our creativity, but wonderfully doesn't limit it. It's the blueprint of creation, and it's a mapping of a movement of information across dimensions, across space and time. And it provides beautiful portals of possibility for design. And it really gives stability to the purpose of life and the primal desire of all life, which is to express full potential, full truth, full beauty. So this is something you guys can study in your own time, but it's 10 precepts that anchor our understanding, but don't limit it. And basically, these are statements that are inviting people to open to them individually and then sequentially, because we seek to develop an understanding and a protocol of movement in terms of our design process that is not making any huge assumptions, that's based on these precepts that are self-evident and build something together. So the universe is made of one substance, one compressible medium that interconnects all things. And in effect, the universe only has one shape, the shape of energy, the sine wave. And the universe can be described as a geometry of pressure, meaning that when information and energy compresses and touches and connects with something else, that geometry of pressure leaves an impact. It shapes our world. It connects, shapes, and informs our world. Literally informs, gives it form. And in this medium that creates, focus is the process. Guys in the background there, you guys hear us? In a universe, shape is the only thing that the universe has to conserve. That's the only thing that is necessary to conserve. And the only way to conserve shape along any pathway is using a nest of ratios, meaning like those Russian dolls, one inside the next, inside the next, inside the next, using fractality to connect the very big with the very small, be it a thought or an entire system of structure. And the best way to maintain that is using what we know as the golden mean, the golden ratio, the sacred cut, the 1.618, God's telephone number. That's the best way to connect all of these fields together. Now, the beauty of fractality, it means that if coherence or order or beauty exists at one level, if it's fractal, it's going to express and exist at all levels. That means, in effect, that we don't need to get it all right all the time. We just need to have the ability to focus our intention, open up our natural desire to create beauty, and give it space to breathe and to express. And if we get it right at one level, you see the response, you see the result. It enters into the field and it's available for download from anyone who is open enough to receive it. And there's no one more open than these new children coming in. And finally, the last two, DNA. DNA, that hyper-conscious, multidimensional being that is the core of our physicality and our psychology, that is a four-dimensional dodecahedron, pure sacred geometry, but bursting with life and ever-changing, ever-connecting, ever-opening. And DNA, when given an opportunity to open fully, and that happens at a macro level in terms of our environment, when we give ourselves that space to open, the DNA begins to radiate, becomes charged radiant, and then becomes alive. It starts emitting light. And light, when it's given an opportunity to fold back on itself like a toroidal field, gets to know itself for the first time again. Now, I'm aware that doesn't make sense in English. It gets to know itself for the first time again. Because that's touching the essence of space and time being nothing but an illusion. What do we need to learn, guys? We don't need to learn anything. We need to open and apply what we already know to be true. So the School of the Future, I'm not going to read this out. You guys can read it in time, and we're happy to share this presentation with you. But that life is seeking to move towards ever more beautiful states. And to us, holistic design is an art, and it's a science. And it's an art and science of creating and constructing spaces which embody and ensoul the essence and the expression of beauty. Not as an opinion or a specific perception of beauty, but beauty that goes beyond opinion, beauty that touches all souls equally because it's coming through them. And in our design of spaces, what's important is that although we are absolutely impassioned about education and spaces where we can learn and where we can open the new life, any project, any creative endeavor has the same potential, the same utilization, the same possibility. So we have opened to within ourselves, and most particularly together, this desire to create what we're calling love temples. So this isn't some throwback to the 60s. Love temples are structures of any flat level use that are based on the principles of love, based on the principles of love architecture, of beauty in manifest form, truth and wisdom. And that whole spectrum creates love temples. So a school can be a love temple, a dental surgery can be a love temple, and this is a love temple, you know? So this is our desire to let this breathe inside and outside of the spaces that we create. Sacred Geometric Designs, if you've looked at the websites, we have more on our websites. This is just some of them. The bottom sequence of images, you will recognize in some way as being visualizations called cymatics, which are the visual presentations of vibration in different mediums. It could be a physical medium like a powder or a sand, or it could be liquid, or it could be sound itself expressed as light. Doesn't matter, but nature uses cymatics, a cymatic projection to create form from vibration. And of course, the ultimate vibration for creativity is, of course, love. No surprises there, as it impacts us at a physiological level and in the field of energy, the torus of being that is all of us as one. Here's a selection of images of some of the designs that we have played with in the past. Each one of these serves its own unique purpose. None of them look the same, but all of them are following the same fundamental principles of seeking to create beauty in functional form. So what's important for us specifically is, especially when it comes to sacred geometry, guys, we are all babies when it comes to sacred geometry. Some of us might claim some sort of knowledge based on blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. None of us have a clue what's going on. Sacred geometry is an attempt to model the infinite. It's trying to put a language on something that is our essence, but we have no idea really what it means. So we would be very conscious of playing consciously with it. By that we mean taking full responsibility for what gets designed. If we try to anchor a model of, say, a shape, a tetrahedron or a dodecahedron or a cube, and say, hey, the properties of this shape are X, Y, Z, this would be a great building for meeting. This would be a great building for that. It may be. We're not saying it isn't. But that level of simplicity can get us into gray areas. So we seek to understand, as to the extent of our ability to understand, to feel, most importantly. And that's why that beautiful, when he spoke about the ritual earlier, that when we zone out of all the background noise and we listen and feel our body, that's when sacred geometry begins to speak, not necessarily through models, mathematical models and shapes and forms that we imagine would be good, so we stick it here and we stick it here. So we need to take responsibility for ourselves and what we create consciously. Because the new children, they are asking us, because they're not allowed to pick up a hammer and build, even though, if you're aware, there's a school in Russia where in that school, the students build their own structures. They physically build their own classrooms. They hire and fire their own teachers. They themselves invite teachers of different disciplines from around the world. They pay their airfare and say, come here for 6 weeks and tell us all you know. And many of the students that have graduated and done very well come back later and just add life experience to enrich it even more. So if you try and give a child a hammer, you get accused of child labor, of slave labor. But in fact, the children know what they want and what they need. And it's wonderful, of course, when we invite children to be part of it. But what we must be conscious of is that I was involved recently with, it was a couple of years ago, with a potential design of a school in the Czech Republic. And the teacher was really, really enthusiastic, and she was in a position to say yes. And I suggested that she show the children, or gave the children a chance to have an opinion about what their perfect school would be like. She didn't understand why I wanted that. She thought maybe I didn't want to take responsibility for my own design. But in truth, she just wasn't open to that possibility, that the children might possibly know what it is they need more than we did. Hence that expression, we can't solve the problem with the same minds of thinking that created it. So we have an opportunity individually and collectively to be like children again. And from that psychology, from that position of knowing, we can express and create with a purity that goes beyond opinion. And at that point then, of course, we need to engage meaningfully with the municipalities and the building departments and the government and so on and so forth. But what we have found so many times is that if you get the core right, that touches everyone else involved. And you would have developers and financiers and government officials that go against their natural sense and actually end up saying yes. And supporting something coming from this place. So guys, that's effectively our mission, our vision, our sharing. And we absolutely recognize, feel, and share your collective excitement to do something meaningful for the future. We offer our services to be part of some collective process for sure. And we're very, very happy to be here together doing this work and be with you guys. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. ¿Alguien tiene preguntas?
Well, everything that you say, I can only say that we're in full resonance of what you have shared with us. Thank you so much, because you put it in such a simple way of communicating this, all this, what it is like geometry in relation to new ways of learning. And it is really important, this aspect that you mentioned on the, could we say intuition?
Claudia, ¿puedes hablar más fuerte, por favor, o más cerca al micrófono, por fin?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. So please,
Yes.
Claudia, say
again. Yes, thank you for putting in such a simple language to communicate this. We are in full resonance with what you share with us, and this the human being is really developing its sixth sense. Do you agree with this? That the sixth sense is an important, as you started to share this idea drawing that you made, and the daughter from San Zoo. I mean, with my daughter, I have the same experience. So, is it the sixth sense that we need to connect a bit more to intuition? Or
absolutely. And you know what? There's somebody recently postulated a seventh sense that goes beyond intuition and connects with your knowing of why you're here. And the children coming in now, they know why they're here. You know, the so-called indigo children came in to shake things up. And the crystal children, if that's the best word to use, they're coming in and they're saying, thank you for shaking things up. It could have been better, but we know why we're here and what we need to do. So just give us space to breathe. because we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Mm.
And it's our job to just give them that space.
Make a box.
Yeah, yeah.
Close them.
And yes, absolutely. And to create environments where they continue to be able to connect with their source, not to box them or contain them, to let them breathe, not just, you know, physically breathe, but breathe spiritually. So, so, so important. And our spaces can do that if we do it consciously. And beauty is the key, guys. Beauty is the key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And may I ask another question? You mentioned very in a very clear way. I love the way you said that the best path to maintaining nest of resources is the golden mean.
Yes.
Yes, it is very quite the way that you express this, meaning that as long as architecture with connect and integrate the design matrix of Earth and the golden mean, it resonates with life. It resonates with life. Is it so? Do you think this makes sense?
Yes. Again, we must be careful of being too simplistic.
Yes.
It's not in our nature to complicate things. Simplicity is a driving force in our own movements, in our own life. The golden ratio is the most recognizable and favorite of the sacred processes and the sacred expressions. But life will try anything in order for it to grow and express itself. So in some cases, geometry is based on the square root of 3, the square root of 5, the square, pi, e, any of the other symbols that we have given to describe these patterns and movements, life will use. If we become too obsessed with the golden ratio and its derivatives, we've lost a key point of life. We have basically said, yes, God has provided all of these possibilities, but these ones look damn good. We're going to focus on these ones because my mind resonates with them. And I can say that because I've been obsessed with this all my life. And thankfully, Zana came along and said, relax. Calm down. There are other possibilities. So initially it was yes, but. And then it was the but began to fall away. And now there's just a big yes. Because that's the key, because beauty is a universal language. It doesn't require mathematical formulation. It doesn't require agreement. It doesn't require anything. And the living planet, the living plane, the whole dimension we're on is only interested in beauty. And absolutely, and that's it. And I would love for my and our children to grow up with an appreciation of beauty that extends far beyond intellectualism, that goes deep into their heart and fuels their relationships in life, not just with themselves and other people, but with the environment, and most specifically with why they are here in this beautiful life and what they're here to do.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Noemi, do you have any questions? Noemi?
I go to you guys, okay?
Noemi.
So guys, we'll finish up. Our main website is zem.design on the bottom. And just to let you know, Zem, the word Zem, Z-E-M, it means Zana and Michael, but it's also Slovakian for earth.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's actually our Mexican friend who said, do you know that .design is now available? So it was so cool, zem.design. You know?
Very beautiful, beautiful.
And you know, we are, just one moment before we still have you. Zem.design. Yeah, so we are offering bioarchitectural services. We're also offering co-visioning, which is helping people, individuals and collectives that are sharing a feeling to create something together. We give them the support, not just energetically and graphically, but in every possible way, we help them give life to their vision. So we co-vision with them. We also do seminars, but we call them ZeMinars because why not? And finally, and I'd like to mention this one, there's a process here on the screen, you probably can't see it fully, but it's called alivement. And out of the multiple languages that Zana speaks, she's able to create new English words that didn't ever exist before. But alivement is that which wakens up an innate being within us. And specifically, those that are in positions that of creative potential. So she works directly one-to-one with individuals who are at a switch point in their life, or at a point whereby they feel the pull of their soul bursting from their chest, but they're not able yet to express it. So we're operating fractally at the individual level and at the collective level. And of course, our architecture and our holistic design is the medium that a lot of this can take place in. So please spread the word. We are open and available for all creative possibilities, and we're very grateful to play a role in this vision with you.